Yarakshik, good evening. I would like to first acknowledge that we're meeting on this fabulous land of the Squamish people. It's their ancestral, unceded, and traditional territory. And when I think of this land, when we're here, recognizing that our people have been here for more than 10,000 years. And so it's a real honor that Chief Janice George to welcome us here. It's a great privilege to have a chief, as we say in our language, a cookbee, here. Thank you so much. And I would like to acknowledge, I'm from Lytton First Nation, as shared, and I live at Musqueam on the traditional ancestral and unceded land of Musqueam people by UBC. And it's a real honor to be here today, and I'd like to recognize and thank Canadian Health and Fitness Institute for having me here. So all our relations, Cooksham. And I have a presentation here, and I'm just going to go into it. So I really want to not stick to the presentation too much. It's really, I like to usually do freestyle. However, I typically present with Indigenous communities, and so I'm trying to kind of do this Western approach to kind of stick to a PowerPoint, but I'm going to do freestyle a little bit. I like to kind of connect some of these ideas to my lived truth and experience. And so when I was hearing that kind of ideas about a park before, I was thinking, oh my gosh, a park. You know, the real ways of being traditionally active, like for example in Lytton, we're called Tlekunchin, is that we work on the land. So right now we're harvesting wild potatoes, we have wild asparagus, we have celery. I have a Lytton manicure, as it's called, which means we have no nails and dirt underneath our fingers. Working on the land is really one of the best ways to have ties to holistic health and wellness. And there's my daughter, my beautiful little baby, Ava Willow. She belongs to Didadat First Nations, and we adopted her. My husband's from West Van. He's part of the Miles family, and we adopted her from birth. And she is one of our she makes me smile. So whenever I put a picture up there, I always remember that when we talk about holistic health and wellness, it has to be with ties to family. It has to be ties to your family values. And typically your values are passed on to you between ages 3 to 5. It's very important to reflect on every culture has a value system that's been passed on by your ancestors. So when we talk about spirituality, we want to think about the people before us, that their spirit lives on with us. From an Indigenous lens, it's really important for us to reflect on those connections of a holistic health and wellness. So we think about our past 7 generations before us and our next 7 generations after us. We believe that we are leaders in holistic health and wellness, that we have a very healthy, strong, resilient community, that all our communities are thriving with ties to our ancestors. We are here because of them and because of their resilience, and not just because they're strong, but because of their wisdom. And so I'm hoping to pass on these teachings today. And I just really want to really recognize the intersections that we have within all cultures. So as I speak, I want you to reflect on the teachings of your grandmother, your grandfather, your mom and your dad, the things that they told you that were really important for you to do to have ties to your spiritual wellness, your emotional wellness, your mental wellness, and your physical wellness. What does that mean for you? So I want you to reflect on your role and place. We'll go to the next slide. Yep, thank you. Perfect. And I want you to think about everything you do to be physically active, and that each thing you do in physical activity, it nourishes those parts of your body, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. It's really important that you have intentions when you're being physically active. We want to break free from the idea of physical activity is in a gym, is in a fitness center, or doing laps. We want to break free that. You know, I remember when I first started dating my husband, we went to a river and he was doing catch and release. He loves fly fishing. I was like, you just threw that fish back in the river? How could you? That was our dinner, right? And so, you know, his ideas of exercise, his ideas of fishing were completely foreign to me. I was in shock. I was like, because I believe in destination walking. So you go for a purpose. You go to walk to the grocery store, maybe if you live in the city, or if you're out in Lytton, you go to harvest, or you go to pay respect to the ancestors before you. So it's really important to think about what is that you're doing and what are your intentions in making it emotionally, spiritually, and mentally purposeful. Thank you. And I know that John Weston mentioned before, the next slide, the deficit-based So we really want to break free from these ideas. I know we had some horrifying stats shared, and they're true. They're true scientific facts. There's a lot of really unfortunate data out there about the condition and health and wellness of our country, of our world, of our planet. But the one question I had for you, did that motivate you to become more physically active? When you hear that, for example, when First Nations hear that we're plagued with 3 to 5 times more diabetes, more cancer, that we have the #1 population in the justice system for single parents, that we have those children in care, does that motivate you to become a better person? So the deficit-based, when it comes to intrinsic motivation or adherence to physical activity, I'm just going to say this out loud, and I'm sorry, it doesn't work. So I was very naive when I finished my master's in human kinetics at UBC. I went into my own community and I said, I've got my qualifications now in exercise science. I'm a rehab specialist. I'm here to help you. What can I do to help you guys get better? And they're like, they were quiet, and I did this presentation on cardiovascular fitness. And then after I said, do you have any questions? And they said, well, we already have a walking club. We already do hiking, we do canoeing, we're paddling, and we just wanted to make sure, is that something that we should be doing, like the frequency, the duration that we should to maintain our health? And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I talked at you. I came here and I tried to fix you. I tried to tell you what, from a deficit base, what you need to do to get better. And I didn't realize in my own community, they were already practicing holistic health and wellness. And we're so fortunate in Lytton, and sadly, we're not so fortunate with the fire, but we're so fortunate that we have ties to our ways of living. We harvest food all year round, we chop wood, we help put up, doing our ditch lines, and everyone's so physically active. And so if I want to motivate someone to be physically active, I make it ties to family. Practicing what you preach, having integrity, respecting yourself, and when I'm physically active at Musqueam or in Lytton, I'm making sure that I'm doing things within a relationship. I do walk around clubs, where I support each other. We go for walks. I go harvest blackberries. I give my first harvest to the elders at Musqueam. It's their territory. When we go fishing, we always give our first fish to the elders in Lytton. So we're practicing things with purpose and with intentions. And that's what motivates our community, is to give back to family, to give back to community. And I know that everyone has these same teachings, but how have we forgotten? We think, being physically active is you go to a gym. Don't get me wrong, I love working out. However, I do that so I can go fishing. And next slide, thank you. So family-centered approach in health and wellness and values, being inclusive of everyone in the family. So I want you to think about who is in your family and what are their different abilities. So are you doing exercise or activities like playfulness, playing with your children, in the gardening? Are you going for areas where everyone is involved? We did sun run training at Musqueam, and we had an elder, and she was in her 70s, and she came out with her son to join the sun run club. And the people said, oh, she can't participate. She's not going to be able to do 10K. She's not going to be able to do the running program. And I said, well, let's just do it around 4 blocks. And it took her an hour to do the whole block. Everyone walked around or ran right. But you know what? How motivational it was to have her there with us in that club. She showed up at every workout early. She came with her son, and everyone's like cheered her on. It was so inspirational. So making sure that you're inclusive and you include everyone in your activities and every ability. And so it just really fosters collaboration and support. And it's not a competition, right? So everyone has different strengths in this room. Everyone has different gifts. When we think about our physical abilities, our emotional abilities, our spiritual and our mental, everyone here is different. We all bring something to the room, to the family, and to the community. And you need to be celebrated. And so think about physical activity. When have you ever used physical activity to celebrate? It's not just about getting sweaty and getting your heart going. So a celebration can be like dancing, right? A celebration can be going out with your dog down to the river, playing. So physical activity has real strong connections to emotional wellness. It could be if you're really angry, you go dig a ditch, or you go build a trail. It could be that when you're grieving, you spend time with animals or horses and dogs, or you spend time on the land. You lay on the river, you walk down to the river, you lay down on the rocks, and you feel the support of Mother Earth. And you know that magnetic pole is something that we all feel, that all feel a connection to land from a spiritual perspective. And so when we think about holistic health and wellness, the next slide. Yep, great, thank you. We want to really connect to spiritual wellness, emotional wellness, mental wellness, and physical wellness. Can you have spiritual wellness if you're not physically well? Can you have emotional wellness if you're not physically well? Can you have mental wellness if you're not physically well? So think about the 4 components and how you need to have all these in balance to really, to be yourself, to practice your strengths in each area. And so sometimes I'll do a check-in, like where am I spiritually today? Where am I emotionally? Where am I mentally? And sometimes if I feel like I'm out of balance, I'll go for a walk in the forest. You know, that's where scientifically, it's a place where you have the most negative ions. You know, Olympic athletes know this. You go into the forest, you go by waterfalls. It's a place where you can rejuvenate yourself. But it's something we've been practicing for 10,000 years. We've always known going into the forest, going by the ocean is something that naturally helps heal and helps bring you vigor and strength. How am I doing for time, Pam? I can talk too much, but so I'll go to the next slide, thank you. So when we think about holistic health and wellness lifestyle, what is it that you're doing in your life to bring in spiritual wellness? So I do breath therapy. I love breathing. It helps with meditative thinking. When you do anything low intensity, low impact, like cycling, walking, swimming, it brings in repetitive. Anything that's repetitive, it helps with meditative thinking, helps with problem solving. So if you ever have a problem and you do something to help resolve that, let's say it's gardening even, you want to think about how long does it take you when you're doing that activity to find out what the solution is for that problem. So in our culture, like for example, my grandmother used to say weaving. So we used to do it takes her like a month to make a big basket of cedar root. And whenever you have challenges and you want to think things, you start weaving, start doing some pattern making. Think about things you do in your own home that you do that's pattern making. And it's usually something that helps you get connected to your emotional wellness and your spiritual thoughts. Thank you. So effective strength-based prevention models. So strength-based approaches must be developed by working with Indigenous community members on what is currently working well to promote health and wellness and to build those strengths and successes. So again, when you go into a community, you really want to focus on, or anybody, what is it that you do really well? And let's say, for example, you're going for walks once a week. That is something really well. Something, let's say you're just starting off, it's only 15 minutes. So do we go, oh no, you need to do 10,000 steps a day, shame on you. So we don't want to be doing like, okay, let's build on that. You know, let's how more, like who can you go for walks with? What relationships can you commit to having walks with your children or with your elders? How often have you been seeing your elders? You know, your mom and your dad and your grandparents, right? Oh, geez, it's all good. No, it's all right. So you really want to be aware of who your relationships are in your family and your community and really celebrating your good work. I'm just going to probably wrap up with, if we can flip through the slides. I just want to go to the one where it says reciprocal sharing and health and wellness knowledge. Great, thank you. So this is really the foundation of a lot of our Indigenous ways of knowing. And it's really making sure that we have a transfer of knowledge between our youth and our elders. And so we're not working in silos, we're not working in individuals, we're not working by gender, not dividing women from men. We're working together to make our communities stronger and better and working on our strengths. And so from an Indigenous perspective, our ways of knowing for holistic health and wellness are something that we want to share with the rest of Turtle Island or North America. Thank you so much. Kluksham.